Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome to this channel today, and it gives me great joy to notice you viewing this content. I'm Dr. Olayinka Conley. I'm a lecturer in the university. I am a sociologist. I am a researcher. I'm a public speaker. I'm a life coach. On this channel, I do a number of stuffs. These stuffs I do, you can cluster them into 4: sociology, research, relationship, and migration. All of this I do as consistently as possible to add value to you, my subscribers, and you, my viewers. Meanwhile, if today is your first time of coming in contact with my video, kindly subscribe to this channel. Comment, like, and share. And if you subscribed previously, thank you for staying tuned. Kindly comment, like, and share. So today, I want to address a very important topic within the confine of sociology. This topic is very important, and I want you to watch it to the end. It doesn't matter where you're studying sociology, you are most likely have a course on sociology of development. It's a very central to sociology as a discipline. It's very relevant. So the topic of this video, or the title of this video, is what is sociology of development, or development sociology, and what is the relevance of this course. Most universities offer this course as a subfield of sociology, and some call it sociology of development, and some call it development sociology. Both of them are the same. So it depends on the concept that the school wants to adopt. So development sociology, or sociology of development, is a branch of sociology. It's a subfield of sociology. Meanwhile, I did a video previously on this channel. You can find it there. The title of that video is Areas of Specialization or Branches of Sociology. Areas of Specialization of Sociology or Branches of Sociology. So I mentioned this subfield there. So it's a branch of sociology. And this branch of sociology, development sociology or sociology development, adopts concepts, theories, methodology, and approaches of mainstream sociology towards understanding development, human development, development of societies basically. So development sociology simply is concerned with understanding how societies develop. We want to understand the processes of development, the structure of development, the patterns of development. Development sociology wants to understand why are some countries developed? Why are some developing? Why are some underdeveloped and perpetually underdeveloped? It's a comparative discipline, and it adopts historical approaches towards understanding development. We look at history of societies to understand their development trajectories. And it's also comparative to be able to compare one country or one society with the other. Not for judgmental reasons, but so for us to be able to understand processes of development. When we begin to answer or ask questions, what is the state of development of China? What is the state of development of the United States? What is the state of development of the EU? Why is Africa the way it is? Why is Asia the way it is? Why is the Caribbean the way it is? Why is the Middle East the way it is in terms of development? You're already asking questions within the confine of sociology or development. Meanwhile, on this channel also, you will find a video which I did on why our poor countries remain poor and underdeveloped. It's within the confine of development sociology that I made that video. So it's very important for us we use sociocultural realities of countries, of societies, to be able to project. We don't predict actually in sociology. We only project because sociology is still at the level of theories. We are not at the level of laws here. So we cannot predict, but we can project based on patterns. So sociology development also want to understand the impact of human behavior on their development outcome or their development processes. How, when people behave certain way, what is the implication of that for their development experiences? That's why we can say if a society continues this way, it's very unlikely it's going to develop. So, and sociology development want to understand the concept of development. We ask the question, what is development? What affects the development of countries? We want to understand the implication of human behaviors in understanding the differential behavioral or differential developmental outcomes of this society. If people in this group behave in certain ways, why do they behave like that? And what is the prospect of their development within the confines of this? So we want to understand differential trajectories, differential outcomes of human behavior and the implications for society. Therefore, we are in terms of development. Therefore, we'll ask the question of what kind of culture exists in a particular society. What are their institutional arrangements? What are their traditions? And what can we say will happen within this cultural environment? And we also want to understand the differences between growth and development. And that's why you also have to bear in mind that development sociology is different from economics or development economics, because for development sociology, we look at both micro and macro, the general institutional and micro system of society in understanding development. We are not in, why development economics might be interested more in not those macro figures. When you talk about inflation rate, you talk about unemployment rate, you talk about national income, you talk about gross domestic product as a measure of development in society. In development sociology, we look at quality of life index. We're not so much interested in all these indicators at the macro level. We are interested at the micro also. Before you describe a group of people as developed or underdeveloped, we look at their quality of life. Therefore, we agree in development sociology that growth is a necessary factor for development, but it is not a sufficient factor for development. That is, you cannot have development without growth, but we can have growth without development. We live with these macro indicators of unemployment, inflation rates, exchange rates, and the rest of them. They are just elements of growth. We are more interested in the behavior of people, the capacity of people to meet their needs. We want to be able to understand, are people self-described as developed? The quality of life of individuals and groups of people, how does it reflect the quality of life they want? So this is very important for us. So we only study growth in development sociology as an element towards understanding the development process of that society. And in sociology of development, we are also interested in growth, development, and sustainable development. But growth as a process of understanding development. So we believe for development to be considered development, people, the quality of life of people must be affected positively. And for that development to be acceptable, it must be sustainable. So what is sustainable development? Sustainable development simply means the capacity of the current generation to meet their needs without compromising the capacity of the future generation to meet theirs. So that means development for today must not only be considered for the benefit of today, but to what extent does it protect the interest of the future generation? So when a country has humongous debt on consumption, or you have activities that are infrastructural, but is compromising the environment, is compromising the culture of the people, is affecting the normal way of life of people without significant attention to social safeguard, then we don't consider that as development. For example, a development project that displaces people without relocating them, acceptably by the people, we don't consider that development. So we are more interested also in sustainable development. Although this current generation is achieving its own aim, what about the future generation? Is their future being compromised? So that's the level of that. So there are different theories we teach in this. Don't forget, I also have a video on this channel that talks about best ways to understand theories. theories are explanatory frameworks. So in sociology of development, we also deploy these unique theories in an attempt to explain the development experiences or outcomes or potentialities of countries. So you will learn about theories like modernization theory in development sociology. Modernization theory is a fundamental, usually first level theory that we teach in development sociology, modernization theory. Then we also teach theories like dependency theory. Some call it dependista, but dependency theory, we also teach that to explain the relationship among countries and how this relationship might be exploitative. Modernization theory simply explain briefly, basically, a paradigm that tries to account for development on the account of internal processes, internal culture and traditions of society, institutional arrangement of countries, saying until countries jettison their traditional institution to take over or to take on the institutional arrangement of behaviors of those currently developed countries, then they might not be able to develop. So that's just the basic thing. Then we have world system theory, WST by Immanuel Wallerstein. We also have globalization theory. Then we also have postmodernist theory. Postmodernism is also a very popular theory. We also have theories by Paul Beran, a number of other theories. Some people also use Marxism to explain on exploitative relation between the poor countries and the rich countries. A lot of center periphery theory, we have a number of them like that. Generally, conflict perspective. We also have a lot of all of this. So these are theories we usually use to explain, to account for differential development outcome of this country. So, but basically, generally speaking, we are more concerned about the sociocultural processes of in particular countries and their implications for development. We also historical and contemporary approaches, very important in development sociology, because we believe that until you understand the history of a group of people, of a society, you cannot understand the present. Definitely you cannot understand the future. So we believe in these longitudinal approaches in understanding society and in projecting their future. So we might want to look at, for example, if we want to understand the development trajectories and possibly gauge the development potential of a society, or like Africa, you may look at the history of Africa, you may look at pre-colonial Africa or Asia, you may look at colonial Africa or Asia or any country you are looking at. You may look at post-independent, pre-colonial, colonial, then post-colonial or post-independent after they got independent, till you now come to contemporary approaches. Don't forget, Karl Marx said the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggle. So that's very historical. That is, Karl Marx is saying, if you look at history of societies, you will find class struggle there. Then you begin to talk about a feudal society, Asiatic society. You begin to talk about estate society. You talk about capitalist society. Then the socialism that Marx postulated, though it never came. So you just saying, you talk about historical materialism, talking about history down the line, so that we can understand the present and the future. That's very important. Then before you can talk about industrialization in the past and in the present. So institutional arrangement is very important in understanding society. Then you begin to talk about different institutions, institutional analysis of the society. Talk about what you can understand development from the angle of institutions. Talk about the family, talk about the education, talk about the economy, talk about political, talk about religion. You can even talk about social media use in a society and the opportunities that social media gives in that society. You can look at the health system, the peer group. You can look at all of this. For example, I'm making this video as a lecturer, as a researcher, because I know that this generation is a generation of social media. So instead of me just being in class teaching, I think I also want to reach out so that I can spread knowledge free of charge across the world. If you that you are watching this video now, probably you're not even in my university or you're not in my classroom. Yes, we are watching this. So we look at the role of social media, the penetration of the social media, and look at the macro, general society, and the micro at the level of individual and groups within specific societies to understand development of that society. Meanwhile, sociology of development or development sociology, we're also interested in sustainable development goals. We use these sustainable development goals to gauge how societies are faring and how they will likely fare into the future. So don't forget I mentioned the issue of sustainable development. It's within that framework that we have the sustainable development goals to guide development processes across the world, even now. So development sociology is very relevant in the sense that the whole essence of why human beings survive today is to drive development, to improve their quality of life. Development is about capacity of people to meet their needs, capacity of people to achieve their life chances, to live decent life with little or no inequality, with huge employment. They want to work, they can get work, with security guaranteed, with supportive infrastructure, responsible, inclusive government, little or absence of poverty. These are measures of development. If you look at that, my video on, if you view that video on why do poor countries remain poor and underdeveloped, I mentioned all of this, the measure of development. Development generally will mean the absence of all these factors I mentioned. Absence or minimal insecurity, absence or minimum illiteracy. Poverty is not order of the day. You have security. You have people can fulfill their life ambition. Their life expectancy is high, and their life chances are bright and achievable. So inequality is not the order of the day. So when you have all of these issues as the order of the day, then we can say those countries are not essentially developed. So I did also a video on social inequality in sociology. You can watch this. We also want to understand all of this. Social development sociology is very relevant today because it helps us to understand the consequences of human behavior. I mean, in terms of how these human behaviors affect the consequences of all of this on the capacity to develop. So human behaviors, as long as we continue to study human behavior, and we try to use this human behavior in society to understand development. How can we use human behavior as behavioral architecture, intangible architecture, to drive development, to drive growth and development? Sociology of development is there. And how do you achieve development or not achieve development? If not through human behavior. If a group of people behave in an unintentional way, if they engage in activities and behaviors that will not achieve development, so how do you achieve that? So until we understand human behavior, we cannot understand development. I did a video on corruption and society. If corruption is so deep-rooted in a country, so how are you going to be able to develop in such society? Or a society where you have huge inequality and exclusion and ethnic rivalry, racial bigotry, then it's a major issue. It can be a consequence of development or underdevelopment. It can be a driver. This can be drivers of development, underdevelopment. And there can be consequences of underdevelopment or development. When you have exclusion on the account of unequal development of countries or even within countries. So sociology of development remains relevant, and so that we can understand the implication of human behavior for development and adopting relevant methodologies, relevant concepts and theories within development and approaches. So if you taking a course in sociology of development, enjoy yourself. Meanwhile, let me give you a tip, a bonus. If you are answering questions on sociology of development, make sure you have a lot of examples. Be comparative is very important. I did a video on how to excel in sociology. You can also watch that video. You cannot answer questions on sociology of development without getting extra papers. Write as much as possible, define your concept, and give examples. Define your concept, characterize the issues, and give examples. Be comparative in your examples and explanations. And also be historical in terms of history of that society compared with other societies. And also comparative in contemporary society. How do you compare China with Russia, Russia with the United States with China, with the European Union, with Africa, with Asia? So by the time you give these examples, we are able to understand what you are trying to say sufficiently, and we give you sufficient mark. So some people say sociology of development is too wild, is too abstract. It's not true. Just read as much as possible and bring your answers to life. And when you are reading, imagine what you are reading across the world, across different countries. Don't forget that I said it's comparative. I'm enjoying myself the way I'm delivering this lecture. I hope you're also enjoying yourself. So if you follow these approaches, you will do very well. Well, I recommend you take sociology of development seriously. I'm a development sociologist, and I fancy it. And also, development sociology embodies other areas of sociology. There is no other subfield of sociology, subdiscipline of sociology that you cannot subsume under sociology of development. So it's very comprehensive, and I love it. And that's why I'm specializing in that area, because it gives you opportunity to leverage other areas for development purposes. And if you look at some of my publications, you'll find that I research vertically and horizontally, covering a number of other issues that other areas will not be able to cover within development specific areas or period of time. I welcome you to Sociology of Development. I'm sure by next time you are taking on Sociology of Development, you are already an expert in it. Until I see you in my next video, kindly subscribe to this channel. Comment, like, and share. Thank you very much.